So our next speaker is actually not here. He's from SF right now. He's Gabriel Cardona. So he's the founder of BitBox, developer toolkit that has been used a lot now. And he's also recently joined Bitcoin.com as a senior Bitcoin Cash developer. So if you could please welcome Gabriel and his presentation.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks for having me. I'm in Amsterdam right now. I wish I could be there in person. Thank you. It's a great honor. If anybody happens to be coming to the Amsterdam hackathons over the next couple of days, please reach out to me in person. So, as you mentioned, I'm Alex and I'm the senior Bitcoin Cash engineer at Bitcoin.com. And today I'm going to be presenting on the Tokambrian Explosion, the importance of tokens to Bitcoin Cash. And because I can't see everybody, it's hard for me to get a sense of what's happening in the room. So please interrupt me with questions and or comments, or when the time is up, I'm watching the clock here as well, but feel free to jump in. All right, so let's jump right in here. So, for the first 4 billion years on Earth, life was very, very simple. And then during this one period called the Cambrian, there was an explosion of different types of life, which ultimately led to all of the biodiversity that we see around us in the world today. And I believe that we are witnessing something similar in Bitcoin Cash, and I'm calling it the Tokambrian Explosion, where I believe we're going to see just an explosion of every different type of token idea and platform tried. Some of them will not make any sense and they won't survive. Some of them will thrive in their ecosystem. Ultimately, as they grow, they will compete against each other. And the final outcome will be some very, very strong token standards on the Bitcoin Cash blockchain. So real quick, just going to go through a couple of terms. Everybody's familiar with cryptocurrency. It's a currency which is used for the sole purpose of making or receiving payments on the blockchain. Of course, I put Bitcoin Cash here because Bitcoin Cash is a peer-to-peer electronic cash system for the internet nation. That's what we do, and that's what we do best. We're the best money the world has ever known. There are also tokens. So tokens are a special kind of virtual currency that can be used to represent an asset or a utility. And here I listed a couple that I myself have been involved with recently, Wormhole and SLP, but there are several others which I list in a moment, and I'm sure there are even more emerging that I don't know about yet. So, real quickly, let's go through the past. How did we get here? So, in the beginning was Bitcoin, and Bitcoin was good. And so, Bitcoin's scripting language allows you to store small bits of metadata on the blockchain. So it wasn't long after the beginning of Bitcoin that developers and engineers started realizing that these little bits of metadata could be used to represent different assets or different commands for managing these types of assets. So very early on, I urge you guys to go check out this video if you get a chance later. It's by Vitalik when he actually introduced Ethereum. I believe it's in 2014 at a Miami meetup. But very early on, you see people realize that the blockchain could be used for stuff above and beyond money. Satoshi really dialed it in whenever he introduced the blockchain as money because it got the incentive, right, for miners to secure the chain and validate transactions. But very early on, people realized we could do other stuff with it. So in 2010, we see Namecoin. That's the top left there, the M in the circle. And so the idea here was, instead of a DNS system where whenever I type in google.com, it pings some server which gives me the IP address of Google. What if we could have a distributed key value store and call it Namecoin? And so this was, as far as I can dig up from the Bitcoin forum post, this was the very first merge mining proposal. Satoshi created the very first merge mining proposal for Namecoin. And then soon after that, 2011 or so, we have escrow transactions. So the idea here is, I don't know you, you're somewhere else in the world, I would like to buy a physical item from you. I want to pay you in Bitcoin. So when we create a 2 of 3 multi-sig address, you get one of the keys, I get one of the keys, we give one to a third-party arbiter. I lock my coins up in this address, you send me the physical item. If I'm satisfied with it, we both can sign the transaction and you get your money. If I'm not satisfied with it, I can go to the arbiter and the arbiter myself can get the money. And then if I just disappear on you and don't give you the money, then you could go to the arbiter and together you can get the money. And then right after that, we get the idea of colored coins. So the idea here was, imagine if you could take a single Satoshi and you could give it color. So imagine if we gave it was gold, for example. And anytime anybody brought me physical gold, I would put it into my vault and I would issue them these little gold tokens. And they could send them to other people to transfer the ownership of the tokens. Your wallet could always know that if it had a single golden input, to make sure it had a single golden output. You could have mixing rules, so if your wallet took in a golden output and a purple output, it could do something special with them. And then anytime anybody ever brought me a golden coin, I could give them back their physical gold, uncolor the Satoshi, and then basically spend it. And so that idea was very popular, and immediately after that, the idea was, okay, well, we have all of these different assets and they're represented on the blockchain. How can we basically exchange them? And the idea of these decentralized exchanges came about. Decentralized exchanges are very challenging to build. There's one on the wormhole roadmap. It was supposed to be done in November. They got pushed back in favor of ERC 721, but decentralized exchanges are very useful, and I suspect they're about to emerge on Bitcoin Cash. Immediately after that, there was this idea of smart properties. So imagine, for example, if we were having a concert, let's say, and we issued tickets on the blockchain as token, we would be able to know exactly how many were created, so there could be no counterfeit. We would know exactly who bought them. There could be a secondary market which could emerge where people could sell them and trade them and give them as gifts to each other. And then whenever you showed up for the concert, you would simply, scan a QR code or something, and your phone would automatically spin the token back to me and I can burn it or something like that. So that was the idea of smart property. And then somebody took that to the next level and said, well, what about smart contracts? So the idea here being, instead of a contract which is legally enforced, what if you could have a contract that was self-enforcing or self-regulating and the code lived completely on the blockchain? And then of course somebody took that all the way to the extreme and said, okay, well, what if we created a distributed autonomous organization or a distributed autonomous corporation? Basically, a corporation being just a series or a nested legal framework. What if we could take that and have it be self-enforcing and self-regulating in software? And that would be like a smart corporation. So if you see some of the icons I have listed there at the top left, you can see Namecoin. Beside that, you have colored coins. Below that, to the bottom left, you have Omni, which is what Wormhole is a fork of. And then beside that, you have Counterparty Cash. And then, as I mentioned, you can see in this video here, by the way, I can send anybody the URL to these slides or the video after the fact. You can see in this video here, a lot of the information I got from this talk actually comes from this video. It's really, really good. I recommend watching it. But it's basically Vitalik saying, look, not just he alone, but several people have been wanting to do these things. We're unable to do them on the BTC chain for these reasons. We're starting a new chain called Ethereum. So that kind of gives a sense that developers knew early on that Bitcoin could be used for things other than money. You can store small bits of metadata on the blockchain. That metadata can be used to represent assets and then management commands for these assets. And wouldn't it be cool if we could do all of these different things? Well, why did that not happen, basically? Colored coins, all of these things were emerging on the BTC chain. Ultimately, what happened? Again, this is what I've been able to pull out of the Bitcoin talk forums. There were a few different things that appeared that caused that not to happen. So the first one is the reduction of off return from 80 to 40 bytes. So I have a little screenshot there on the right of an open letter to please the Bitcoin core development team. That's another good article that's worth reading. That's from the Counterparty team. And what they were saying is Counterparty is very similar to Omni and Mastercoin. And so they were saying, we came up with this really great sort of metacoin and or token protocol. It works really good in op return if op return is 80 bytes. So they were doing this on the testnet, according to this blog post, on the BTC testnet. So we came up with this really elegant protocol. It works at 80 bytes. We can make it work. But it appears that on the testnet now, op return has been reduced from 80 bytes to 40 bytes. That won't work with our current architecture. So the only thing we can do is we can try this whole other architecture where we use multi-sig addresses. It's a total hack. It's not what we want to do. Please, let's don't do that. So you get a sense that op return, which is just a provably unspendable part of a transaction where you can just write arbitrary data to was 80 bytes, and that was enabling all these people to create all this innovation, and that got cut in half. And you see already that prevented teams from counterparty from being able to finish their product. And then also there is the disabling of opcodes. So you'll see in a couple slides down the road here that we re-enabled opcodes recently on Bitcoin Cash, and that's what helped enable the tokens that are happening on our ecosystem now. But the BTC chain actually disabled opcodes. So they said, it's going to turn off some of these opcodes, and then we're going to make op returns smaller. And then the final bit was people like Vitalik, and he was just one in an entire ecosystem of people. Basically, they left to go create Ethereum and other projects. So I personally hold Vitalik in incredibly high regard. I think he is a quadruple plus player. He's one of the greatest computer science minds of our generation. And I think it was really a big loss to the BTC tribe for him to leave and focus all of his creative energy onto Ethereum, because the computer science work that was happening in Ethereum, and that could have happened on the BTC chain. And a lot of that world came out of that. So as I see it, there are really three things which prevented tokens from happening. Well, I guess there's a fourth one as well. We all know that scale did not happen, but then also op return being decreased, opcodes being disabled, and then Vitalik and a whole host of other people who wanted to create tokens being told to go and create their own project. So that's the past. Here's the present. Where are we right now? So Bitcoin Cash fork, we all know this. It was painful. I call it the divorce because that's how pleasant it was. But similar to other relationships, on the other side of breakups can often be, some of the personal growth that can never happen. So I knew Bitcoin Cash was going to fork. I was positive after Ethereum fork with the Ethereum Classic that they set a precedent where it could happen. So sure enough, we forked. We raised our blocks from 1 to 2 to now 30 megabyte and even beyond coming in the upcoming forks. We increased our op return to 220 bytes, and we re-enabled several different opcodes. And what do we see immediately within probably 2 months? Just an explosion of biodiversity on different platforms. And I'm just going to read these off real quick. So at the top you have Wormhole, which is a fork of Omni by Bitmain. It's one that I've spent a lot of time creating an SDK for. To the right of that, you have SLP, which is by General Pupil, James Kramer, Unwriter, Ryan Charles from yours.org, BCH and Bitcoin.com, and I'm sure there are others whose names I'm forgetting. I apologize. That's sort of like colored coins. It's a newer version where it's user-validated UTXO. Below that, you have counterparty cash. I believe the letter is actually clean. Below that, to the right of that, you have colored coins. Below that, you have Kyoken, which is Bitfriend's token proposal. As a matter of fact, I just saw on Twitter a few minutes ago that I think it went live on testnet today. Below that, you have Bitcoin Token, which is by Clemens, also one of your co-founders, incredibly smart dude. Beside that, you have Tokeda, which is from Jonas Vemeros, I believe is how you pronounce it, from Locat, another amazingly smart guy. Below that, you have Honeybagger, which is by the CTO of Bitcoin.com. He's kicking around his own op return-based token. And Emil is his name, and then beside that you have Group. And Group was an opcode, which unfortunately did not make it in. I really liked that one. But so there is just 9 token proposals that I had listed. This all came out probably 8 weeks or so after the fork happened, where we re-enabled our opcodes and increased the op return from 80 bytes to 220 bytes. And so there are a couple of different types of tokens here. I'll try and brush through this pretty quick. I don't want to run out of time, and you guys probably already know this, but I feel like the Bitcoin Cash tribe is still developing an intuition around tokens. So it's possible you don't know these terms, and I feel like you'll probably hear these terms 1,000 times in the next year, so we might as well all get on the same page. So really there are 2 types of tokens at the moment. There are utility tokens and security tokens. And utility tokens are ones which are used within a company's product or service. So the examples I have here are BAT. So that's the basic attention token. The way this worked was Brendan Eich, who is the creator of JavaScript, the co-founder of Netscape Navigator, co-founder of Firefox, he left his job at Mozilla as CEO to create the Brave browser. The idea being, hey, there's a lot of nefarious ad networks out there. Wouldn't it be cool if we created a browser that protected people from that, and then they could fund a little wallet, and as they cruise the web, they could do micropayments to content producers or ad networks or streaming media or whatever. We could flip the whole model of the web. And so initially they tried to create a BTC token, Because of everything we know about BTC scaling or not scaling, they actually moved to an ERC20 token called BAT, and it's very popular today. Brave is incredibly awesome if you get a chance to check it out. Another one worth mentioning is the DAI you see at the end. It says make the DAI. So stable coins are all the rage. I'm sure you guys have seen. Everybody knows USD Tether. Circle just released one. The Gemini exchange with the Winklevoss twins has one. Coinbase just released one. So there's one called Maker DAI. The way this works is you can encapsulate an Ethereum token in an ERC20 smart contract, and then you can write collateralized loans against it as a smart contract and basically create a stable coin. And just recently we released on Wormhole the ability to freeze or unfreeze accounts. This is a stable coin more in the mold of Tether because Wormhole's a fork of Omni. But the point being, stable coins are coming. I predict that's the next big missing part of the Bitcoin Cash ecosystem. And those are just a list of some utility tokens. Now there's also security tokens. Everybody knows about ICOs. Everybody knows there was $28 billion, maybe you don't know, $28 billion in token sales over the last 4 years on Ethereum. Most of those are security tokens. So how does the government decide something is security? Well, it's the Howey test. Is it an investment of money? Is there an expectation of profits from the investment? The investment of money is in a common enterprise, and any profit comes from the efforts of a promoter or a third party. So for example, imagine I told you I was tokenizing BitBox and issuing Box tokens. Everybody there can buy them from me in a token sale. Next year when BitBox blows up, everybody will make money based on how many tokens they hold, like dividends. That would be a clear security because you guys are investing money in the company. Based on how well it does, you'll make money back. So there are two different types of tokens. A lot of people raise a lot of money on ICOs, and I think those are going to come out as security tokens, but there's also utility tokens, and I think they're going to add a lot of value to our ecosystem as well. A couple of things I experienced recently. I travel a lot for Bitcoin.com. I recently went to a hackathon in Wyoming. So real quick, Wyoming was the first place, they had the first female governor, the first woman voter. They created the LLC. So today if you create an LLC in the United States, you'd probably do it in Delaware, but they actually created it in Wyoming. Wyoming only has 500,000 people, and they have the largest concentration of billionaires in the country, Jackson Hole. They're very, very smart. They can move very fast when they need to. So they last year released 5 different laws. It seems like I only had 4 here. They released 5 different laws last year at the state level. So they made utility tokens exempt from money transmitter laws. They put in a legal framework. If you're a politician or a corporation, you want to write your corporate records to the blockchain. There's a legal framework for that now. They also created a whole new class of LLCs. So you can have a parent LLC and have an infinite number of children LLCs, and they're all firewalled from each other. And you can create an LLC for every single token purchaser. And then they just met with the FDIC this week, and they're creating a new type of bank next year, which is not going to be backed by the FDIC, it's going to be backed by the state of Wyoming. And it's going to be blockchain entrepreneur friendly, and it will allow you to deposit crypto and fiat. Caitlin Long deserves a shout out. Follow her on Twitter. Tyler Lindholm, the representative, deserves a shout out. They're really amazing. Some amazing stuff is happening in Wyoming. I flew from there to Jeju Island, which is an interesting place. South Korea has very strict crypto laws, but they have a little island at the south coast.
Could you please wrap up? You have like 2 more minutes.
Yeah, no problem. So, the reason I mentioned both Jeju and Breaking Wyoming is because I was part of Trulia, and we did an IPO. It cost over a year, and we raised $100 million. It was very slow and very expensive. Contrast that with something like EOS, which is a decentralized team. They raised $4.2 billion before they even launched a project on ERC20. So last, I want to show you this slide. It probably will take the remaining amount of my time. It takes about a minute or 2 to go. So this is my very last slide, so I'm done with this. So this slide basically encapsulates what I mean when I talk about the Tokambrian Explosion. This is the last 4 years of token sales on Ethereum. Actually, there's more to it. I can send you guys the URL. This is missing like 6 months of data. I think this only was 6 billion. The real number is 28 billion if you go through this week's data. But you can see Ethereum raised 19 million. That was the first token sale I remember. I was around at that time. I was just a student. I remember that they raised money in BTC to develop Ethereum. So around this time in January 16, you see the first real big token sale that I remember, and that was the emergence of the DAO. That was the first distributed autonomous organization, and they raised $168 million. And so then, you get a sense that the token ecosystem on Ethereum is maturing. People realize that you can raise money in this way, and then I'll let the slide talk for me at this point. So every single one of those dots is a new token, is a new team, is competition, is a new player in our ecosystem. This is the Tokambrian Explosion, and this is what I would like to see on Bitcoin Cash in the next 2 years. Thank you guys so much for having me. There's my contacts. Feel free to reach out. And yeah, thanks.